Okay. Issue 4, playtest of Present, where everybody is going to be a medic inspired by Bringing Out the Dead. Has anyone seen that movie? Interesting. Okay. That it will truly be a playtest. But in the movie, basically what's happening is you're all medics. You all have been working for some time. You're quite good at your jobs already. Like you're at the moment that when you're working on patients, it's a peripheral thing for you. Your hands just move. You know what you're supposed to do. And the movie is kind of like a um, at moments, especially at night when he's working, it's sort of like a fever dream where he's just moving from call to call to call. His hands are, just doing what he needs to do. And um, yeah, basically, the movie has a character in it, Nicolas Cage, who is the main character and is saying that, like, what he realized quite quickly in the job was that his training was useful in less than 10% of the calls that he went to. It was mostly just like he would do what he could, but generally by the time they get there, it's out of their hands. And so his job was mostly about bearing witness. And so that's why the name of this issue is Present, and it will be an echo tied to the previous one. But essentially, the echo, excuse me, is trying to communicate with you all through the city and the uncanny happenings while you're working on patients and arriving at the scene. That's the stuff that we'll be focusing on, and not like the blood and the death and the carnage and stuff like that. We'll be focusing all on the peripheral things, which is pretty synonymous with what the movie does too. There is him working on patients, but it's never the point of the fiction. The point is sort of his coming to grips with his own grief and guilt, and sort of the way the city transforms at the peak hours of the evening and the early morning, and how it sort of becomes like a completely different city. So let's see how to begin. We're gonna have the typical. Oh yeah, I'll get a roll for your party. Wonder if it'll come up with the one that we had before. It did. That was good. I like that. Small things. we've come to this roll for your party room so often that it's just like, yeah, I know what you want. Cool. So I'm going to make a new 6-sided clock for us, and the clock is going to be the echo. It'll become kind of clear how you get the clock moved up based on the tick-tock of the basic moves that are created. And that creates just like the other games, the 6-sided clock, when it's full, it's the end of the game. So yeah, can I rename this? Nope. Got it deleted. Okay, new 6-sided clock. Most of the text is for the person running the game. I've got a bunch of pull quotes too to help people in the text, because this is such a specific thing for this game. For this specific issue anyway. So first thing we'll do is, I think, let's get you guys to create the medic, and we've got the normal questions before that as well. So what kind of uncanny are we going for? Dark, gritty, intense, scary, etc. I think it's especially important for this issue what tone we want to have, because for one, I think, well, we've been really good at this the entire time, but I wouldn't want to downplay people's grief or anything like that. And I think we've been respectful of all the subject matter that we've played with before, so we'll just continue with that. But what, in terms of what you are vibing on and want to participate in for this specific one. What kind of tone do you guys want to have? Any thoughts?
I mean, I think for me, the thing I want to think of is what's the echo we're trying to reflect on or that we're calling back to? Because I think that might help with deciding this.
Yeah, so I was thinking about that. It's an echo of the previous issue. So in the previous one, we were in the folks' home, and the
Mhm.
uncanny thing that was happening was this weird sort of fringe science thing where people were being turned into animals essentially, and we kind of ended on a positive note where I believe the animals transitioned into the home and were like helpful animal peoples and stuff, right? But I think what we could hit on that would be a direct tie to it might be that these same medics might have gone there to like nurse these animals back to health because I imagine they probably weren't in the best states, or for whatever reason the medics had gone to the home at some point to take care of somebody, and I could imagine that these people being transformed into animals are still missing something important, which is a voice, right? Like they can't really communicate with the old folks home people or the nursing home people. Um, and they would have, it might have been like basically impossible to figure out who was who as well,
Mhm.
of the animals. So we could play off of that a little bit. So like in my notes, I jotted that down as an interesting thing that we could make the echo, and that means when we are going to the basic moves where you're arriving and the echo is trying to make itself known, it could be literally like a concrete jungle with like the sounds of like animals and different things like that happening. But I am open to whatever you guys want to explore about the previous event and the subsequent echo in this one.
I'm jotting some notes down of things that I think could be uncanny that I can insert into scenes, but I like the presence of animals and the similarity and differences between animals and people, I guess, is a way to phrase that.
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing like the animal sides and maybe like the idea, even though like the last time the echo was specific to the old folks home, like I kind of like, because if we're medics in an ambulance, we're going all over places. We're not just going to that old folks home. Like seeing those same signs or similarities or things elsewhere throughout the city and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've got notes in the text already about how this uncanny echo is specifically the city trying to articulate itself through both the inhabitants and the patients that you'll be working on, but also just kind of like the weird stuff that can happen in the wee hours that are just like, yeah, just usually like the strangest stories about city life are like nightlife things. So stuff like that I think would be interesting. Um, if we wanted to go full on dark, then I was also had a thought. Like I have different varying levels of darkness, basically. So the lightest version would be like probably just these people, now animals, trying to have their voice, like their voices basically just somehow got leaked into the city or something like that nearby, and so that's what's going on. And then the darkest thing I could think of would be like not all of the animals were able to make it into this transition, especially if they made big animals that couldn't stay in the home, and then they were either put into a zoo or something like that, but they're people in cages, or even euthanized, right? And like put down for whatever reason. I could see both of those things happening. So,
It's
um,
kind of making me think of just these medics seeing like maybe because of some result of the echo of like seeing some like that animal part of like just from what Yoshi was saying as well made me think of it of seeing like that some overlay animal like overlay or that like a some sort of like totem-esque like thing within the people that they're interacting with that's animal-like. Like that's where I'm kind of going. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's early.
Yeah. Well, so what do you guys think? Oh, Lauren says I'm digging it. I guess that's an answer. Okay, so how should we define that tone wise then? What do you think?
Still on mute. All right. So, I mean, to me, it doesn't really sound like gritty. It sounds like a little bit dark, a little bit intense, not really scary, but like it's almost like I think what you were saying before is sort of like dreamlike, and like it seems that's what it feels like to me, is that like we're going to get a lot of things that are almost nightmarish, but like in a weird, like not really recognizable sense. Like that's the feeling I'm getting.
Yeah. So the strangeness is
Mhm.
normalized because of the nightlife
Yeah,
perspective thing.
yeah. Like if you walk around any like big city at 1:30 in the morning, things are very different than they are at 1:30 in the afternoon, and like it's sort of like almost normalized by that fact.
Yeah, totally. I'm into that. Cool. Okay, and oh yeah, so one of the questions that I made, which is kind of funny now, is if this fictional city were an animal, what would it be?
This seems like one of those questions they ask you on like online job things to see whether you're like a crazy person or not.
Well, I think for me when I was writing it, I think it was a reinforcement of the tone that you were all thinking of, right? Because it can be, yeah, it's just articulated in a different kind of way. Because if a snake is very different than a tiger, it's very.
Maybe a kakapo.
Oh,
I was gonna
what?
say kakapo.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, what is that?
They're like, I'll get a photo. They're like flightless parrots, and they're so freaking adorable.
Okay.
They're from New Zealand. They're kind of like a giant budgie, but they can't fly.
Yeah.
And also they climb trees to, even though they can't fly, they climb up really high trees to do their mating call.
So why
I
is
don't know.
this?
Well,
like
I just
that?
think they're a really rare and mysterious creature.
Okay.
They're pretty much only alive on one island now because they're really vulnerable to being preyed on and
I bet since
stuff
they can't fly.
by introduced species and stuff. Yeah. I don't know. I was just going for something strange, hard to see, and like mysterious.
And like it sounds a little bit sad too, right? Like these flightless birds and stuff.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, like they need to be. They're vulnerable. Like strange, hard to find and vulnerable. Yeah.
Mm.
But also, I was just kind of having an in joke with Lauren.
Oh, I see. I see how it is.
But they're so cute. They actually like glump around as well because they can't like run or anything, so they just go like look around. It's real cute.
Oh yeah.
They're so dumb.
But does anyone, they might be a little bit too humorous. They are quite
Maybe.
humorous creatures.
Yeah. Silly.
Does anybody else have another suggestion?
The kiwi, the blind bird. all of our birds in New Zealand are so silly. Sorry.
So I was thinking about this the other direction rather than from what animal is it like, is our city like, but what is our city like, and then what animal represents that.
Sure.
And so like for me, I sort of get the feeling that, and I think this sort of plays into what the bird you were talking about, of like that mysterious thing that right now I get the feeling that there's one face that everybody sees, but nobody, but like you have to really work hard to see like the true nature of the city, or like what you see there. And that's what we see as like medics who go around at 2 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning. We see something that nobody else sees. Like we see that life that isn't there, that everything else. So
Interesting. So like the city by day is sort of like some kind of nocturnal animal.
yeah,
Something like that.
something like that. Like a nocturnal animal is totally something I was thinking of.
Cool. Also, that was a good and scary movie. Nocturnal Animal.
I don't even know that movie either.
It was good but scary. Also, because it does that same thing where it's like this creeping, strange, normalized surrealism that you're just like, I shouldn't be used to this, and it's scary that I am.
Yeah, so if you want US based funny animals, we could go Trash Panda with raccoon.
That's what I was originally. I was just about to say raccoon, and on like my sleepy brain's like, no, say kakapo.
In Sydney, we have the bin chicken. Okay, so animals are just weird, I think.
Yeah. Bin chickens.
Well, so I think the whatever animal it is, the point is that we've come to like a nocturnal animal, right? Where like the daytime is not representative of the actual goings on, at least not something that is pertinent to our fiction anyway. And what stories have you heard of the uncanny in the city? Have you seen ghosts, for instance?
I like that idea that I was playing with, that there's like maybe other medics hearing them like say when they were looking at a like a patient or something, that like I could have sworn that they looked like for a second like a dog or something like that, or like that sort of thing. They looked strangely like a nocturnal flightless parrot for one moment.
So I like the idea of echoing like all of the signs we saw early on in that elder home. So like animal paw prints and things, or things like that. Or we hear from other medics and stuff like, yeah, we heard a dog like barking, but like we searched around and we couldn't find one. Like there was no dog food in the place, there was no water bowl, there was no leash. Like they didn't have a dog, but like we heard one, but we just couldn't find it. Like, so a bunch of stuff like that.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I'm super into that. And not that we would, I think, in the fiction going forward, but we should be careful of the indigenous spirit animal stepping on that a little bit trope thing going on. But I don't think we would, but it's good to be cognizant of that. Because I think us using the indigenous culture the way that we did previously was good, but I think the spirit animal thing might be a little bit too far for us. So then we make characters, and then we have 3 other questions. Oh, nice. You can tell that I wrote it late because it goes questions 1, 2, 4. Nice. Good job, Fraser.
Hey, we're probably gonna do it anyway, but it's making me slightly anxious, like part the safety stuff to do with this game, in terms of like I heaps don't want there to be any like children, like working on children, or yeah, because that will be super unfun for me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, what I'm picturing actually with this is we don't really need to talk about the patients at all. I think
Yeah, I'm just a bit vague on how it works, and that it's making me anxious. So
yeah, like I don't picture me starting you off with like, oh, there's a call to this apartment building and you're going to be working on a kid and stuff. Like I'm not going to be the dispatcher. Instead, it's going to be like you working long nights and you're in sort of like a fugue state where you're just going from one place to another, And the only thing that we centralize the fiction on is the strange things that are happening there, not the actual like issues, problems, or whatever that the patients are having. So it doesn't even need to be like we don't even really have to say like where it's taking place. It just is like I'm at the next place, and the thing that I notice is this
Yeah,
strange
right.
stuff. So it's almost
I
like
guess your
don't
familiarity with the like with the source material means you kind of know a bit more like where we're heading.
yeah. Well, yeah. Well, when you look at the basic moves, it should be easy enough too. But I'll make sure that the text reinforces that it's not about that at all too.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
cool.
I don't imagine it'd be that was one of the main issues that I struggled with when the patrons voted on the this specific one. I was like, well, I don't think it would be particularly fun to have a game where like, oh, I saved somebody's life, or oh no, they're dead, that kind of thing. Like, I'm not super interested in exploring that. I'm more we assume that you're competent and you're working on the patient, but that's not the thing that matters in the fiction.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, see, like I'll read you a quote to give you the tone of the movie. I realized that my training was useful in less than 10% of the calls, and saving lives was rarer than that. After a while, I grew to understand that my role was less about saving lives than about bearing witness. I was a grief mop. It was enough that I simply showed up. So, yeah. The movie is fairly dark. But yeah, we'll definitely not do like kids and stuff like that for sure. Whatever, if we ever do, for whatever reason, have patients and stuff like that. Yeah. And you'll notice that there's just the one playbook, so it should be easy to make a character. Woo! Good start time.
All right, I got some info for you. I linked a picture in the Slack. But I was cheating and thinking about this a little bit before we even joined, as I was reading through
God.
the PDF. So I have some answers. So I think I'm going to play Brant's. He goes by he him, and the source of his grief. I think he was just driving along, but got in a car crash with somebody else, with like a probably a drunk driver, and he was it was he and his partner, and I think basically pretty much everybody else died, and he just had to sit there waiting, and he felt that like he wanted to be able to do something but couldn't. And so that's kind of his source of grief. And I think that's also why he wanted to become a medic, is so that he felt like he could do something about that if that happens. And his how it manifests in my life currently is he definitely abuses a substance, and I think it's he goes drinking and sort of like gets to the part where he gets really drunk, maybe sometimes blackouts, maybe just gets really drunk and passes out type thing. But he also abuses the fact that he is a medic and knows how to give himself like saline solutions and stuff to like cure hangovers and things like that. So
You
that's
do
kind of
the banana hammock thing or whatever.
yeah.
I bet it's not called that, but it's banana
it's
something.
but that's kind of how it manifests himself. But I think he also has like that weird rule, even though he goes out drinking, like he will never drive while drinking because of that accident, and is always like taking public transit or a taxi or whatever it is to get home, or walking. But like he doesn't even own a car, I don't think. I think he's like, his car got destroyed and he didn't get another one to replace it.
Woohoo. Okay. Cool. And it was Grant, Grant.
Brantz.
Oh, Brantz. Okay.
Yeah. Stealing a name from the Story Games name book of pseudo English names.
Pseudo English. Oh.
Yeah.
I need to get that at some point. It's BRANCE.
Yeah. Yeah. The PDF is free. You can go just download it. That's what I use most of the time.
Yeah, I've got to print it out. I printed my copy out at Officeworks. It's awesome.
Clever. Okay. I wonder, did we didn't really clarify too what we wanted to go with for what happened at the old folks home. Like we defined the tone, but not exactly what you guys wanted to have actually be the echo. Are we just doing that it was something that happened whenever these people got turned into animals, their voice made its way to the city? Or something?
And there were kind of those weird, Yoshi was saying there were the, like, remember, like tracks and signs of like animals being around, and that sort of, I guess that's part of the echo of it, maybe,
Yeah.
that's spreading out into the city.
Yeah. I just
does it have to be super strongly defined, like exactly what it's?
No, I was just it'll probably influence what I'll be saying.
Yeah, right.
In return for what's going on with the actual signs of the echo and stuff when you arrive at locations. I just don't want to assume that we went to like a darker place or something, right? And then we're like, whoa, didn't we just say that, we went with the lighter touch, did we not? That kind of thing, right?
I forget what we said.
Poor Lou. What time is it there for you guys?
It's 6 now.
Yeah, just hit 6.
Yeah.
That is rough. Okay. Well, I appreciate you both so much. Love from Canada.
I'm generally not into like super dark things, like, so I guess if we could make it a mediumly like a medium amount of darkness.
Fair. Well, I'm completely fine with just saying because we've already established that these people got turned into animals, which is, horrible enough, like the agency being removed from them.
When you think about the reality of it, yeah, it's pretty harsh.
Yeah, so I kind of even like the idea that their voices, like it's initially dark that their voices are lost, but the idea that they got sort of internalized by the city and are now trying to be heard is, I think, a good thing. Like it's less dark than it could be, for sure.
I I have a bit of a weird idea for a character, so apologies. Feel free to rein it in. But I was thinking of having kind of like a young-ish paramedic whose drive is just to sort of like help people and like people and wants people to like them. And I think like I enjoy the idea of having someone who has that day job they're real passionate about, but then has like a hobby that they're also super into. And I thought that hobby might be like some kind of like community theater or like poetry reading or like some kind of like creative outlet. And that what was her name? I forget the name of the character, the magician in the previous game, that that woman was kind of like one of her idols as a kid, or like she's watched a lot of footage of that person, and yeah, it was kind of like the one of her, yeah, I just like one of her idols for getting into this like creative stuff, and that her grief outlet is sort of performative and getting and like expressing that on a stage perhaps. And I think that's about it.
Is it like karaoke? You get shit faced with Brants and then go sing.
Yeah, probably. Sounds
Well,
like fun.
because a lot of the things too, like just so you guys are aware, this game is built on just like basically the 3 basic moves, right? Like it's a very cyclical thing. You have X amount of grief. When you get more grief, up to 3, you sort of trigger your vice, which is a peripheral move where you indulge in it. And then you keep going with that sort of cycle unless you do the one of the basic moves, which is open up. And so when you open up, you lower your grief and the echo goes up. So one of the things that I want you to be cognizant of in the playtest is whether you think the players should know that up front, or if it would be a thing that they would like discover during play, or if it's like, I don't know, I'm toying with it because it might be more I know, not fun, but you might get better fiction with the players knowing this already and playing into it throughout it, right? Like you guys might be. So I don't know. It's what do you think, Yoshi?
I was gonna say, what do you mean, like knowing that you're trying to basically accumulate grief and then expel it somehow, like recognizing what that grief engine is?
That, but also like the idea that the end game is known by you guys, right, as players. The idea that if you're indulging in your vice, you're getting some of the options are still good, like you're being able to swap some of your stats or increase other things. So intuition and peripheral can go up and stuff like that, but you're not ultimately moving towards the end goal, which is a statement about like what this echo is particularly about in this game, whereas the other ones we nebulously defined it ourselves, right? So yeah, it just depends if yeah. And also I'd imagine like there might be different play with people not being aware of that cycle to begin with and discovering it in play, being like, oh, okay, when I do my vice, then I don't get rid of my grief. And clearly, if I keep on accumulating grief, I'll have to keep indulging my vice. But if I open up, then it goes down, that kind of thing. So I'm wondering if knowing about that first will drive play quote unquote better than not. Just something to be aware of. I think that probably knowing beforehand and driving towards that would be more satisfying, but we can reflect on that after we actually do it and see.
I mean, what it reminds me is a conversation I've been having recently with both knowing what moves are available and what you can do mechanically within a game really affects things. Like, to me, the biggest one is in Monster Hearts. There's no I ask nicely and convince them. Like, yeah, you can't do that. You're a teenager. You can't try to talk to your parents and ask them nicely and get them to do with it. You can. There's just no mechanical way to do it. You're just gonna try, and the result is the result, and you have no control.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I think with the game being upfront about it being grief because you're choosing it after you make your character with the questions, that, yeah, it might be more satisfying to play into what it's about instead of being like, oh, I've just discovered this as a player and now my character has as well. Type deal.
Yeah, that being said, I'm also one of those people that's hugely into the sort of like writer's room meta narrative approach. I am not a huge one for super into my character and not knowing meta knowledge. Like, that's not my play style. I'd rather know. So,
well, then I'm glad I told you. But yeah, I agree. I think that especially since with PBTA we're continually framing things like a scene and being quite meta most of the time anyway, we might as well embrace the knowledge and drive towards what we're all looking for as players and not just being like, that's not what my character would do. Just a little side jab. But yeah, once you guys are done creating your medics, then we can finish off the character creation ones, which I think Yoshi has already done during it, pretty much. Keener.
Yeah, I've got this guy called Omar, and I think he's that kind of lovely mix of a whole heap of you know, nice genes and family background. Like he's you know, those people that always look amazing because they've got like cool like features and stuff coming from everywhere, kind of like why Brazilians and stuff look so amazing a lot of the time because they have that kind of, you know, like African and and indigenous and like European kind of like melting pot. And I'd imagine maybe his family is probably somewhat like that. And I'm going with the like Faith as his
It's the Vice.
Yeah.
Cool. What was the name again? How do you spell it?
Omar, it's one of your built-in names.
Oh, Omar.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think maybe it's experimenting with like these like various faiths. Like he's tried out a whole bunch of different ones, and I think at the moment he's doing like Hare Krishna faith. He's experimenting with that one to see if that's the thing for him.
What is that?
Hare Krishna. It's a Hindu like sect essentially, I guess. Yeah. It's like it's just a form of Hinduism. I just know about it because I used to be a Hare Krishna in my teens, so I thought that meant I was I'm allowed to go there because I know what I'm talking about.
Sure. Sounds good. Yeah, I think I read a little bit about it in River of Gods because it's a cyberpunk novel that takes place in India, and there's a lot of stuff like that in it.
It often seems to be popular to still have Hare Krishnas in the future in cyberpunk things. I've seen it in there like a few times. It's a kind of almost a little. I'm pretty sure in Blade Runner even maybe you see in the background some Hare Krishnas like going past singing.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
Like it seems to be this kind of running joke that it's like they'll still be there. Like doing the exact same thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's all I've got for now.
Okay. Yeah, and then after you create the character, we have the questions. Every medic begins with grief. How did you get yours? Why did you become a medic? And what does your grief manifest as in your life? And you chose faith, right?
Yeah, I think maybe the I'm imagining how did he acquire his grief is partially to do like with the job and like having that whole thing of having your it's just that basic like like why is the world like this, if there's a god, why do they let this sort of thing? It's just like wear and tear from being in the world and their reaction to the world, I think.
Right.
And probably I'm thinking the job is just kind of accidentally. They looked in a course handbook and they're like, that looks good.
Okay.
And started studying it. I kind of like that they fell into it.
Sure. Cool. Lauren, where are you at?
Yeah, I think I'm it.
Yeah.
So I have Eleanor, who I popped into the chat in Slack.
Oh, the Slack.
Yeah, I can pop it into.
I've got it. I'm just gonna
Yeah,
save them so I can post it to the Patreon later. Eleanor?
Yes, please.
Cool.
I think she looks quite naive because she is. I think she's rather young, like fresh into this career. And I think I do like the idea of someone who because I'm sort of drawing upon like my knowledge of stand-up comedians, which is like they all like to make people laugh, but they often like are prone to depression and like depressive episodes. So it's gonna be a really funny game. So she got into this career because she really likes helping people and wants to make a difference. And as a result, kind of like has lots of side hobbies about like making people laugh or telling poetry to people to like entertain them, and just like really wants to like make the world a brighter place. But her sort of grief thing is depression. I think she's quite prone to like depressive episodes if she goes if she accrues too much grief, I suppose. And is there other stuff I need to elaborate on?
Did you do the questions? Every medic starts with grief. How did you get yours?
I didn't I haven't thought about that one. I kind of feel like if it's depression, it's sort of just like a manifest that's always been there. It's like her chemical makeup in her brain has kind of just made that she is just quite prone to depression. I imagine throughout her life she's probably had like depressive episodes. But yeah, I think that's how I want her to be.
Sure.
If that's
sure.
okay.
And did you? Oh, you said. Did you say no? You didn't say why she became a medic yet either, did you? But you said that her valve, her release valve is the performance stuff, and she looked up to your previous character, right? The magician.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like I think it is 'cause she became a paramedic because she just loves helping people, and perhaps she would have gone down the stage like acting route, but it's like that's just not quite feasible. Like no one becomes famous and stuff, so she was like, well, I'll go down like this route. It's a bit more like realistic and achievable because I kind of also like that kind of mundane. How do you describe it? Like like I guess mundane hopes and dreams, which is like wanting to be super famous, but not being in a position to be super famous.
But not.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Sounds good. So we've got Brant, Omar, and Eleanor. Yeah. Cool. So let's see. I think I've said what I need to do for. Yeah, and I think other than me having already explained the grief and stuff, then we're ready to go, I think, from what I've seen. So, the I think we already did the concept, but the aim of this though is to again be like a fever dream or like an anecdotal quality to it. So when you're like hitting the streets and do no harm moves and stuff like that, it would almost be from the perspective of somebody outside of your body kind of thing, or someone actually maybe a good way of thinking of it would be like when medics are talking about it to other people later, the details that they tell people, right? Like they're generally not going to be like lingering on specific details. It'll be more like I was at this job, this crazy thing happened, and I noticed like X weird thing about their apartment, blah 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 blah, right? Like it won't be. It's generally not like them describing the patients in detail and all that kind of stuff. And because they're all sort of like it's almost similar to the ward if you're familiar with that, where you're overworked doctors, right? Like it's like this fugue state that you're in just to get through your shifts, and you're working at like a weird time of the day. So who knows if you're able to even like have your body react to the evening shifts and get the right amount of sleep and all that kind of stuff. Anyone who's worked shift work probably will understand a little bit of that. When I did shift work, I was always feeling like I was apart from society, basically, even if I wasn't, you know, going through the same things as these people, obviously. But it's an isolating thing, being in a different time zone and shift from other people.
I've got quite a few friends that are like nighttime shift emergency like casualty nurses.
Oh yeah.
I'm still able to be friends with them because I have a weird like work schedule myself, so I've got like time to catch up with them still. Otherwise they just hang out with other night shift people.
Yeah, well, because everybody else is gonna be, at work or doing the opposite of what they're doing usually. And if you ever listen to Misdirected Mark, then you know Bob's brutal schedule. Every time I listen to that show, Bob is like, I'm becoming one of the night people again. So anyway, yeah, so we're in the nebulous city. Generally, I think that I would have it as traditional ambulances where there's 2 people in each one, but I think we can just fudge it a little bit and say that 3 people are working the same ambulance for whatever reason in this one. Maybe there was an emergency earlier on or whatever. I think it would make less sense to do jump cuts between things in this way. So cool. So let's just, I think, begin in media res is what I say, but it's medias res or whatever, right? So the proper way to say things. So when you first arrive at a job or at a call, you roll plus intuition, and the 3 states in this game stats are intuition, peripheral, and your grief. That's the 3 things that you'll be leveraging in your moves. And they're pretty much what you would expect in the game. The grief is pretty much just like a tracker that you're using to trigger your vice or to get rid of and move up the clock. Intuition is just it's your actual intuition. Like it can go up and be moved with different special moves and stuff like that are moving things around, particularly with your vice. But as somebody who has worked these shifts and are like a veteran of this, you have like a sixth sense gut thing going on. There's a lot of stories where medics can sort of like predict what calls that they're going to be going to for whatever reason. So that's emulating that kind of thing. And the peripheral is when you're actually going to be working on the patient because even just as the stat implies, it's not something too much that you're like it's not completely in your control, and it's also not what you're focusing on. We assume that your hands are doing what they're supposed to do. You're fixing up the patient, but you're also like taking in different things. An example of this, just so you guys have in your mind, in the movie, he's working on this old man who's like not doing so well. But instead of focusing on the old man as his hands work and stuff like that, he looks at the photos on the mantle for the daughter that's there, and it's like a you can see the progression of her life from when she's like a young baby to when she's at prom, and it sort of halts there, and then it shows the woman who's like much older than that now. So he surmises that something has happened in her life between then and there that maybe the family isn't proud of or whatever, right? Because that's when they stop chronicling the woman. So the whole time that he's working on this patient, he's actually thinking about all this kind of stuff. And then suddenly they're at the hospital and they're bringing in the guy. So it's stuff like that, like these weird focuses on surrealism and the uncanny and like human moments versus the patients. Does that make sense to people? Yeah. Cool. Okay. I wonder something I'm toying with. Do you think then we should start with you people? Yeah. What's more interesting? Do you think it would be interesting to start with you people actually like going to the home for some reason and coming into the contact with these dogs, and you're the ones that like carry the voices back with you, and so you're like haunted or whatever, or it's being perpetuated by you without your knowing, or that you just like show up to a job and they're already there and you're trying to figure it out and stuff like that. Like, do we want a direct connection from the last issue to this one, or just the meta layer of it? What would be the funnest?
I vote for the second option personally. I reckon it would be kind of fun just for the it to just be part of the world all of a sudden that they're out and doing stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's just me. I'm easy either way.
Okay, cool. Interesting.
What do you vote for, Fraser? Do you really want to go to the because that's perfectly fine too.
No, but yeah, that's why I deflected this to begin with. No, that's cool. I think. Oh yeah. Okay, so I think you guys get called to a like. It's not a high rise. I'm picturing this nebulous city that we're in to be sort of New Yorky, where there's like really towering skyscrapers and stuff like that. And so I think the opening shot is like, we get the credits and the executive producer, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff, with the ambulance lights above, like raring as you're going to this call. And you pull up to like a giant skyscraper, and I bet the moon just sort of like drops, right? Like, great. I wonder what floor it'll be. But it's also like a shot that showcases y'all like what you look like and stuff like that. So to have people haven't described what they look like yet, right? We could have that shot. Do people want to just do a quick summary so we see what is on the camera?
Yeah, sure. So, like from the team, it sounds like Brant's might be like the older one, like the most senior of the crew of us here. Um, and so I like he is probably like mid 30s, late 30s, somewhere around there. White guy, probably with he's kind of a bigger guy, so like 5'11", 6 foot, like type that. Not like huge, but like definitely on the taller end of things. Also like a little bit stocky, beard, short, like brown hair, brown beard, but it's like all cut short and like kept like clean and meticulous and things like that, but it's definitely present. And he's got like the medical getup that he's supposed to have and everything. And like as he's walking into it, he's got the bag he has slung over his shoulder, and things like that. Probably like because it's a sky like a high rise type thing, we're probably like wheeling a gurney in there because we don't know exactly what it is, but it's better to bring it with you than to
To go back.
to have to go back. So like I think it's taking it with us, even though we don't know what's going to go there. And so like you can see like maybe as like we're pulling it out, we're tossing a couple of things in like the bottom tray of it as to kind of haul with us. And I think he's probably taking the lead going through there.
Mm, cool. What about Eleanor or Omar?
Eleanor is definitely sort of scrabbling to like support Brant's as they're getting the gunny ready. Like she's definitely taking his direction. She I think if you had to analogize her to an animal, she's definitely an ostrich. Like kind of like
Flamingo.
kind of like scraggly with that like lanky with like a bit of a beaky nose and like quite big eyes. She wears glasses, so she's always like pushed them up or like the bridge of her nose and stuff. And I think she sort of like has that same kind of like birdie demeanor of like being quite flappable and like has to like be mindful to calm and like control. And I think like she leans on Bronze a lot for that because like he's been around the block a bit. I think she's probably like early 20s, like ish, sort of like just starting out.
Cool. What about Omar?
Yeah, I think what does Omar look like? I think he's just pretty clean cut looking at the moment. It's like kind of nice brown skin, short back and sides. And I think you see him though as he gets out of the like the back of the ambulance, like putting a like a little. Have you seen those bead bags before that there is like the chanting? You see him like shoving a
Is it like a hacky sack kind of, or
no, it's like a cloth bag about like that long, and it's got like because like Hindus kind of use a thing similar to rosary beads to chant on, so it's like to keep a string of beads in. He's like pushes them into his pocket and maybe I think starts coming and then runs back and gets a little book out of the car and puts that into his pocket as well. It's like maybe hurrying to catch up.
Cool. It sounds like Brant, you're the first one to be going in there. So do you want to roll plus intuition?
Sure, I will totally do that.
What do your guts say?
Intuition is +1 to start with.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I got a 7.
Cool. So for the folks at home, something about the echo is clearly articulated through the scene. Articulated. A person, the weather, song, a noise, or a feeling, 7 and 9 the same, but the manifestation is confusing, alarming, far more subtle, or else frightening. So I think the skyscraper might look, especially nowadays with how pretentious architects are, it probably looks like something that is supposed to be very like new artsy and stuff like that. But as you twist your head and you look up, it looks like I can't remember if we had a gorilla in the last one, but I want to say it's like a gorilla in like a weird arched position. And the strange, maybe even frightening or confusing thing about it is that, like, they say, on your radio, you hear the crackle and the buzz and the loud thing. And they say that it's on, like, some crazy floor, like 60th floor or something out of forever floors. And there's lights going on and off, like flashing, that would be maybe where the face of the gorilla is, like the eyes. So there's like the shot of you guys looking up at this giant building, and it's sort of like is the establishing tone thing where it's like got the almost surrealist, strange, uncanny thing going on right away for the observant audience. I'm sure there's some people that are like, "What? It's just a building, whatever." But we know it's a gorilla.
I was gonna say, is it like you look up and there's the two apartments, buildings, or whatever windows that would be the eyes? There's one where the lights are still on and it's just fine, but the one we're going to is the one where the lights are blinking, but it's almost like the gorilla is winking down at the city.
Ooh, cool.
Like
I like
in
that.
time.
Yeah, I like that. Cool. So, yeah, I think we don't need to. I think we just like cut to you guys there, and you're working on the person, and so then let's roll peripheral, and then I think that this will be also I kept the same helping mechanic, so whoever's helping, you get the extra die. So this is a little bit interesting because I had thought that it would be 4 people on separate things, so it'd be an equal amount of like helping and stuff like that. So maybe the other person who isn't helping can do something else. Like they could hit a key, for instance, and then look for answers or whatever, the gather information move that I have there, something like that, perhaps. But we'll have to take that into account. But yeah, so I think that the peripheral thing is what will roll, and then that will inform the scene around you. So it's sort of like working the opposite, where I would normally set the scene, you'd be triggering the roll and you'd be doing it. Instead, I think it'll be the trigger just being us knowing that you're working on the patient there in a jump cut, and then we build the scene out from the answers from the do no harm move.
Given what we set up, I would love to be helping Eleanor like do this, just like passing her instruments, and like maybe it's just like before like the elevator opens up, it's just that shoulder hand on the shoulder, like you got this, you can do this type thing.
Yeah. Is it inside? Is it like a really nice thing, or is it one of those things where on the exterior of the building and a massive high rise and stuff, you're like, oh, inside it must be beautiful, but when you get in there, it's got that like Matrix quality where everything's kind of got a weird tone and a strangeness to it, or is it just like actually immaculate and as beautiful as we think? What do you think, Eleanor?
Oh man. Yeah, I took the former sounds interesting. Sort of like on the outside it looks super great, and on the inside you can tell it's sort of like they renovated the exterior, but the interior needs a lot of amount of work. I imagine like sometimes the pipes are a bit shaky, and sometimes the hot and cold water like goes on and off and stuff, and all that jazz.
I imagine it's easy at least to find the floor, both because like the crackle of your radio telling you what to do, but beneath the door there's the flicker of like the lights going on and off and stuff like that too. Cool. So why don't you roll plus peripheral?
I would love to.
Roll a third time. I'm giving you help.
Thanks. Thanks, Brent. Let's roll these red dice.
Yeah.
Sweet. I got an 11. I think
That's pretty good. So you choose 2 and you answer them yourself. And if Yoshi's helping, maybe you can just like give 1 to each of you.
Definitely. for sure need the help of my my mentor and guide.
For sure, I need the help.
Yeah. Like you can tell that she's going about her job and stuff, but it's like a little tremor in her hands, and you're not quite sure if it's excitement or fear or whatever, but she definitely needs that steady hand of Brant on her shoulder.
Right.
I'll ask.
Just so I understand, we're not asking these questions. These are questions we're answering, right?
Yeah, you're answering them. I worded it not so good, Lauren. Sorry. Like when I verbalized it, what I mean to say is you ask the question to yourself and answer it. Like you answer the question. Yeah.
So my brain totally was like, oh yeah, we answer these, and then my brain turned off for a second. It's like, what are we asking? So like, what is? Let's see. Sorry, it's super early.
No worries. Yeah, especially for you guys. I feel bad.
I think I might just be a bit cheap and go for what here is uncanny, surreal, and mysterious. And I'd like to evoke like some of the motifs we've talked about before we started. I like to think there's some like muddy paw prints, which like wouldn't be too out of place in this establishment because we've kind of like laid out that it's not like the nicest place to live, except these prints are like on the wall going up, kind of like toward the ceiling, so they're this like yeah, so I think that's like the uncanny element of it is like you've got some gravity defying cats or whatever this creature is climbing up the walls.
Nice. Cool.
I think for me, it's what do you perceive here as a manifestation of your grief or the guilt right now? And I think what we see, or at least what Brant sees, is you see on the table, like as we're working on the other person, like you can see like the coffee table or like the end table. There's a portrait like picture frame, and you can see that one of them is the person we're looking at. Like there's a clear resemblance, but it's like 5 or 6 years old, the picture that is, and there's somebody like else that like it's like a couple's portrait, but there's only one person here, and you can see like that the picture is on the end, like the coffee table, but that's not where it normally lives. And right next to the picture that on the coffee table is like an empty like bottle of whiskey that's turned on the side and basically empty. And I think that's what reminds Brant of their grief.
Nice. Cool. I like that a lot. Interesting. So I think the next time we do the do no harm move, I'll continue to do it like other PBTA where I set the scene a little bit. So you guys have things to work off that we trigger it, then we go, I think, hey? Would that be better? Cool. So what are you up to, Omar? Do you have a I was thinking you could be possibly hitting a key or something like that if you want, or
yeah, I've got one to do. Yeah. So maybe I think maybe Omar's like just like we're you're right. It's just kind of extra hands at the moment because it's not like a particularly intensive thing that we're doing, and I think maybe he's calling like back in on the radio to like just to check in or whatever. And I think I think after he's done that, he kind of looks up and he sees the those paw prints. Maybe sees like Eleanor looking at the paw prints and kind of looks and like following them up the wall with his eyes. And then I think he's going to wait, I lost my keys. I think he's gonna it's gonna be, have you ever experienced an uncanny echo or event before, knowing or otherwise? So I think it's maybe an unknowing uncanny event, and he's but maybe he's making the connection, and I think it's that it's just a little vignette of that scene that we could have started with, that you were talking to, of like the crew maybe even just pulling out of that like out of the nursing home, and we see the sign and stuff, and the the people from watch the last episode will recognize the place and everything. But maybe like maybe it's like the camera's kind of looking back at the place, but maybe flies over the ambulance, and there's like the same paw prints like across the top of the, like up the side and across the top of the ambulance. Is that a spooky enough weird connection to the current situation?
Yeah, I dig it a lot. Yeah.
Cool.
And so, did you want to use that to trigger a different move while you're there, or do you think that's good?
I'm happy with that for now, I think. Let me just look at them.
Sure.
I guess I could become listless.
Yeah. You know, Omar, always so listless.
No, I don't think I will for now. I don't
Okay.
think he's making any connections or anything yet.
Cool. I think then I have this neat image in my head where like we're obviously not sure what had happened in the apartment, but we start off with your scene where you're noticing the picture and then the stuff, and then we pan out a little bit to see it. And I think somehow there has probably been some kind of like leak, um, just to play into our animal motif a little bit more, where the lights are going on and off because there was some sort of leak, and then it shorted out a breaker or something like that. So I think it keeps resetting the light over and over and over. And so there's also like water like pouring out of a window that is broken, and like a sliding door that is broken, and the water is like pouring out of it. So if you were like from where you were before out on the street, you wouldn't have been able to see it because it's so like far away. But now the camera pans out a little and we can see that like this eye of the gorilla is like crying a little bit, and then we like do a jump cut. And do you want to take our first break? Because it's been about an hour or so. So let's come back at 52. Does that sound good? Cool. I think I'll make it so that instead of doing peripheral move for Vice, I might move open up and Vice to like a sort of downtime thing, like after a job, you trigger one of those things. It might move the pace a little bit further, right? Because everyone's trying to do one of those two things. But maybe not though, because then maybe people will continue to try to open up every time then too, though. That's the difficulty about doing that. Every time we drive to a call, I try to open up. I think that would be a little bit no, not the best. Cool. Oh, nice. Muted myself. Okay, so yeah, we get that like lingering shot of I like to picture Omar sort of like not slumped or anything, but maybe has their hand on like the side of the slider, obviously not where the glass is, kind of looking out the window with the camera looking in. And then we like do the jump cut away, right? To like maybe the cut is like the crackle of your radios again, but you're suddenly like back in the ambulances, like moving and going. And yeah, cool. Okay, so I think what do you guys think about having do you think that it would be beneficial to say that after calls there is a downtime action or something like that that you can do or what? Just have people trigger it when they want to?
I kind of like the idea of at least having a couple of calls at first just to simulate that
The wild rush?
the idea of just going to like job after job. Yeah, that seems cool.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I think that would work as well because if you accumulate grief past it, then the next scene naturally will be your vice because it triggers it anyway, and that'll be the stop gaps, unless people want to do the open up thing too. I think that would be neat. Okay, so I think the next call that you go to, I have a picture here, and it's hard to explain, but so I might just send it to you. But you get a call to like this old brownstone with these double doors that looks like dilapidated and like pretty messed up. And I'll send you a picture. The bricks and stuff like that are coming apart. The windows are broken, and it seems like it wouldn't be a inhabitable place, but it's y'all's job to get in there when there's a call regardless. So who do you think is first in this time for intuition for arriving on the scene?
Maybe it's Omar this time because he realizes he was dragging his feet last time. He's like,
I mean, yeah, and you were just staring out a window, so
yeah,
you wouldn't really help. So not to diminish Omar. Cool. So roll plus intuition.
Bloop. I got a 7.
You guys like the sevens. Cool. Okay, so oh yeah, I know. Okay, so I already read the move last time, but it's a manifestation of the echo, and 10 is essentially like a really clear one or whatever, and 7 and 9 is like uh-oh, but you still hear something basically. So I think you push your hand forward on one of these doors and it just like crashes in. Like it's not on hinges, it's something that they just put there to be a doorway or a barrier. And when you get in there, the strangeness I think that you see is that there is like a TV that is on. It's not so weird that it's not like getting power. It is plugged in and everything. But it doesn't have bunny ears or anything on it, and you see like a news cast, and I think y'all probably don't think nothing of it, but as players we're aware that it's like reporting the stories about the nursing home as you go past. And the weird thing about it probably is that at least as far as I recall, we haven't defined when that is taken place in this particular issue's fiction. So it could have been like a long time ago, or it could be happening right now. Who knows? But those events are happening, and you could go through, and I think we'll parallel the last one where again there is these stairs, like whatever shot that we had in the previous high rise where you like probably looked in and there was lots of stairs but then took the elevator because you were like fuck that noise basically. There's no that option in this place, right? So I think you might need to Omar carve a path maybe and handle yourself going up through these rickety shitty dilapidated stairs. Why can't I say dilapidated? It's early here too, I swear. And so you're again, it's we're rolling peripheral with this one because the idea is that y'all are on like autopilot again, right? Where you're just like handling your biz. Even this sort of I hesitate to use like shitty part of the job, but or like you're used to this as well, as crappy as it is that there's no elevator and you're making your way up through these stairs and stuff like that, right?
I got an 11 this time.
Oh, well, whatever, Omar. You're stupid.
I wanted to fail. I pretty much want to fail every roll I ever make.
Okay, well, I'll take that then, because that is like a juicy little thing for me then, knowing that you're suffering over there with your success. So I think you get up there and we get like in there's no lights, which is strange because the TV was on, but there is like that typical whatchamacallit, it's a candle bra, I think it's called. The there's like 3 of those prongs with candles on it. Is that a candle bra? Whatever that is.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Opera, yeah.
Opera, there we go. Oh, geez, English is hard. Okay, so so that is going, and I think we get like an ominous, weird sort of again surrealist thing happening where it sort of looks like it appears out of the darkness on its own, like and then as the whatever it's called is tilted back, we see like a young man's face hurrying, getting you to call, and you can tell that he doesn't speak English, probably Portuguese or Spanish or something like that, just doing the hurried signal saying like, yes, I called or whatever with the miming gestures, and leads you to like a like not a very nice place that's been run down with probably just like a mattress there and a woman.
I reckon I totally speak Spanish.
Oh, okay. Way to fuck me up. Okay. Well, he speaks a language you don't know how to speak.
A different language.
Yes, a different language. Yes, so for some reason he's speaking Old Latin. He's speaking.
That's actually kind of spooky.
Yeah, there you go. Lauren nailed it on the head. Old Latin, but you probably don't know that. But yeah, there's a woman feverish there, and I imagine somebody begins to start working on what is happening here. And I think since there's 3 of you as well, we can say that there's both of them are patients. One is well enough to have called and is the man and speaking in a creepy language that you don't know, and the other is clearly worse off on the bed and such. So what do you do?
I like to think this one's a bit more complicated. So, but Brad says like take the lead in this one. He's like, "Don't worry, child. Like just watch and learn, kind of thing."
Yeah, definitely. So I kind of look and like kind of step up and ask for things and have you hand them to me as I kind of like go over and kind of like do whatever needs to get done. But it's totally like maybe we see the image of Brant like kneeling over and helping whoever it is, but like you don't see Brant's hands as he's like doing it. It's just his face. And like tell me if I'm wrong on this, but like I almost feel like in the background, you know how like when you have like shrines or things like that with candles where you have like they just place another candle on the pile of wax of other candles and things like that. Totally feels like something that would be here, that like in the background Brant is sort of backlit because there's just a pile of wax candle mess behind him and there's still a candle still lit there.
Sure, yeah, totally.
Well, all right, I will
Lovely.
roll my peripheral.
No, Lou, no wizards. This isn't that kind of game.
Yeah. With the help, I get it. I get it 10 plus.
Nice. Okay.
So we get 2 questions.
Yeah.
To answer. I think if somebody else were looking at this in this moment, what they would see, like and I think this is basically what the camera sees, is like you see Brant's relaxed, like even though it's like kind of this weird situation, like this is the thing that he's been training to do. He's helping somebody that needs his help. And so like he's going through the motions, and it's not that like he's glad that this person is hurt, but he's glad that he can do something to help. Like this is somebody he knows he can do something. And like you can see him like take confidence in the fact that he's been doing this for several years and he knows kind of what's going on, and he's doing his job efficiently, and it's what he's doing.
Mm-hmm. And then Eleanor.
I think I'm going to take what do you perceive here as a manifestation of either your grief or your guilt right now? And I think in this instance, Ellen is sort of like, just doing the job thing of like handing stuff to Brant as he's working on this person. But she's captivated by the young man who beckoned them in here. And I imagine that while we're working, he's on the peripheral, just like frantically talking, perhaps praying. I don't know what, like she doesn't know what it is, but it's just that desperation in his eyes that he just like really wants to help but can't help as he's watching his like loved one in trouble and struggling and potentially in a lot of pain. And I think that's what resonates with her a lot, is like being in a position where you're watching someone in pain and being unable to help.
Okay. And then I guess we'll cut to Omar, who's so good at all the things. And you're working on that.
Wonder maybe if Omar's just here to drive the car.
Wait, are you not working on the other person? You're just
no,
like,
I am.
Oh, okay. I'm out. Back at the car. Omar's doing okay. That's funny.
So am I making a roll, or am I describing what I'm doing? And
peripheral move, yeah. But with no help because they're both engaged with the other person.
Cool. So loop. Oh, 6.
Guys are hard at tricks. Okay, cool. So again, answer 2. Like I was like, oh, I'll be hard in this game and do 7 and 9. You'll get grief. But you guys are like, whatever. It's a good night so far. Yeah, we'll see what happens next though.
So it's the do no harm questions. Yeah, cool.
Yes, yeah, correct.
I guess I'll answer the uncanny, surreal, or mysterious because I guess we've only gotten like hints at that.
Yeah, it's a
So
slow
far.
burn.
Slow burn. Uh that totally made me want the candles to be burning backwards, but that's kind of out of tone. Maybe I kind of like the television in this room that we're in while we're working, just like coming on all of a sudden, and I think it's got that, I guess this is in a magical world before digital television, but it's got the old analog. I don't know. Do you guys have all digital TV now? We've got, yeah. Anyway, remember all the cool snowstorm and stuff instead of it just going like, yeah. I think it's got that like analog snowstorm, static. I think maybe I like maybe it's another over the shoulder shot. Like Omar kind of turns around a bit and hears the thing and he's like goes back to working. And I kind of like it would be cool if there was a bit of like some strange I like the idea of a snake like in amongst that static shh, like you hear this kind of like kind of sound, and there's like Omar doesn't turn around because it's obviously just the static of the TV, but then maybe I think maybe just in the very top corner of the screen you see this tiny bit of a like the end of a snake's tail just move like past.
Cool.
So that's one of my things.
I like that a lot.
Cool. I kind of want to go with I'm going to go, what do you fear most in this instant? But it's probably tying into the grief and guilt thing as well. That I think maybe he's I think maybe he's flashing back, like we've done other calls on this night and a couple of them haven't like gone so well, and I think he's like kind of flashing back to those like the moments that stuff like went wrong a little bit in the night, but then he's I can't think of any good quote right now, but I think I know what he does. He pictures I don't know if you guys have seen this illustration before, but it's in heaps of the Hindu books and stuff. It's the it's like the cycle of reincarnation. So like it goes through, it's a kind of like a life cycle, but then it like flips back around. And actually, like a lot of the time it moves through animals and stuff as well. And there's different animals based on how well you lived your, like if you were a jerk, you'll come back as a cockroach sort of thing. But I think essentially as he's thinking back on that failed job, he's kind of like looking at this. It's probably kind of superimposed like on the screen, like in the show, like you can see that he's thinking about it. And like I think the insinuation is that he's looking he looks uncertain, so I think the insinuation is he's not totally bought into the idea but kind of wants to believe that that is a like a true thing, like there's more than just like nothing at the end of life. So I guess that's his current fear, that this is just the like all that there is. And yeah, and if there's like this is all that there is, then it doesn't make that much sense to him. Yeah.
Right. Cool. I like it. I like all of it. Okay, so then again, we'll cut away. I'm still wondering if we should compartmentalize the downtime moves, because I kind of like the idea of you taking the patients to the hospital, and then that's when the downtimey stuff would be happening, because you can't really get another call if you have other people. But it also makes sense just to skip forward to another call as well too, right? Like where you're just like, whatever, they're gone. We treated them.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna say, as we drop off the patients and we're walking around, like walking away from the back to the ambulance, I think I would turn to Eleanor. I'm like, "Hey, are you okay? That one looked like it shook you up a little bit."
Um, I mean, yeah, I kind of did, but I feel really silly about it because, I mean, it's part of the job, and like,
Some jobs are easier than others. I mean, it's okay, and things happen. Sometimes they affect us more than others, but
yeah, I mean, well, it's hard for me to believe because like you're such a super competent guy and stuff, and like I was just wondering, like, I mean, have you like had a really like have you lost someone like in that kind of situation before and stuff?
are you opening up? Either of
Me
you? Or both, I suppose. Yeah.
um,
Or is this just a conversation?
I was trying to prompt Eleanor to open up.
Oh shit! Sorry. Well,
She
I
turned it
totally
around.
open
What do
up
you think?
then.
I like that a lot.
Sorry.
But I kind of look at you as you asked me the question in turn, and I'm like, it's part of the job. You can't save everyone. We do what we can, and a lot of the time we get there too late. We can't always do it. Can't always be the thing that we want to be. Tonight we were lucky we could save that person at least for a night, get them back here and they're safe. But yeah, I've lost people in that situation. They didn't make it.
I'm I'm kind of worried that like I mean, is it I feel like we've been quite lucky. Like we've managed to help a lot of people today, but I guess I'm just worried that what if it gets too much, you know? Like what if we can't save I mean, I know we can't save everyone, but like what if we can't save a lot of people and I don't know, I just don't know if I can live with that. Should I open up now?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
Well, it depends. Do you think that you're speaking to someone in an effort to process and articulate what you've experienced and what you think it means?
Yeah, totally.
Yes.
Let's roll some dice. And I agreed, right?
Get your
I've got
grief on. Yeah.
lucky for you, I got an 8.
For me?
Yeah, so it's
What?
a 10.
Well, sure, okay. Yeah. You remove one grief. I was very careful with open up. Much more careful than do no harm. I assumed that everyone would be getting 7 to 9s and do no harm, but I think it still works though, because as we're seeing with do no harm, it's slowly ramping up the uncanny, even if you're not taking grief. So I'm actually seems to be working quite well. I can't take um, you know, credit for it, but yeah. Cool. Does anyone else want other scenes? And I'll increase the echo clock by 1. Moral for your party, double click. Any other scenes before the next call?
Not yet.
Not yet. Not
I
like this.
I kind of had like a random key scene in mind that we can do now if appropriate.
Definitely. Keys are for whenever.
So I kind of want to hit on, have you ever experienced an uncanny echo or event before, knowing or otherwise? And I kind of like this to be a flashback to doing a job at the old person's home, unless we're going, whatever, it doesn't matter. Yeah, like going to a job at this old folks home. And I don't think Eleanor knows it's where our magician friend from last time like lives, but she gets like super excited when she arrives, and then like maybe at the like right time to see some of this magic show that's going on in like the foyer kind of area, and she just like loses her shit because she's like, oh my god, it's her. And she's even more excited because she gets invited up to like be an assistant for like one of these shows and stuff. And our magician friend sort of like does a lot of the magic jazz and gets her to close her eyes and stuff while she's gonna make her disappear and all that, and like throws a something over her and then says the magic words, and then suddenly everything goes like silent. And then she's like, oh shit, like what's going on? And she pulls off the thing, and then she's like in that weird basement area with like all of these empty cages. And like some of them are creaking on their hinges and stuff. And she's like, what the fuck is this? And she kind of like makes her way out of it, this like real creepy basement area. And I like to think we get sort of like every time she looks over her shoulder, she thinks she catches a sight of like maybe a fox, or if she listens quite closely, she can hear like the flutter of crows or squawks and stuff as she sort of winds her way out. And she gets out fine, but it's like that what the fuck just happened kind of thing. I guess she is magic.
Ooh, I guess she is magic. Must be. That's how I started to believe. Cool. Okay. And that's just like, is that maybe like you have that conversation, you guys go in the ambulance, it's driving, and we sort of get like a shot of Eleanor, wherever she is in the ambulance, sort of looking far off, and then it like fades into the flashback thing, and then you like snap back as the door closes to the next place. And I think this one is gonna be pretty neat. It's I didn't know this until previously, but have you guys seen V for Vendetta before? You know how
that
like
movie.
yeah, you know how like apparently in New York there's this like sub metro thing that looks very like Bioshocky, surrealist, and strange. I think that for whatever reason you guys get called to a place like this. I think medics probably wouldn't normally in real life, but this is the uncanny version of medics.
Maybe the city just has heaps more of those than they're just like.
Yeah, that's true. And this it's just life in this one. So yeah, if you picture like not quite run down, I'm actually picturing it to be like quite pristine and cool looking at like a weird 50s or antiquity kind of look of it. And in working order, like these chandeliers that are like actually charged up and all this stuff, like hitting on the fact that there's like this weird hidden underworld under the city that is got kind of like an uncanny thing going on. I'm picturing lots of like golds and rust colors, and maybe even bright reds when it's looking particularly snappy. And when you go down to this area, there's just like a single person. And although the chandeliers are like bright and whatnot, you see that like this person is somehow still able to be clothed in complete like darkness for now. And as you make your way a little bit closer to them, you see yet another person, maybe 20 feet away from them, with a similar thing happening where the chandeliers are still working, but somehow they've managed to be like placed there or laid there or collapsed there, directly where the chandeliers like blind spot would be. So what do you do? There's another 2 bodies. Does Omar get some help again? Or, excuse me, Omar, are you getting some shawarma?
I reckon Eleanor should lead the way this time because she hasn't been the one like on point so far, I don't think.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Your audio just ramped up or something.
Oh, did it? I don't think I started screaming, but maybe I did. Sorry. Is it super loud still?
I don't know. It's a little loud. I could always just turn down your volume. It was just like somehow it just happened.
Yeah, I don't think I'm doing anything. Maybe I just woke up. Yeah, that might be it. This is probably my normal volume, my awake volume.
my awake volume. Nice. Okay, cool. So, yeah, Eleanor, why are you leading the way, and what does that
I
look
don't
like? Well, say cool things. Take charge. Be immediate. To do it, you do
it. Yeah, I think. I think after her chat with Brant, she's like, okay, no, I need to step up and like, if I just sit on the sidelines and observe, then I'm sure shit gonna definitely lose some people. So I need to get some courage and do this thing. But you can tell she's like really nervous, particularly when she finds out that there's like definitely 2 people that need tending to, and she's like, oh dear, okay, I got this. And I think she starts like trying to issue like Omar and Brant's like some direction, but you can tell that like every now and then her voice catches a little bit. Yeah, I should totally do a magic trick. As yeah, she starts working on these people.
Cool. And is somebody helping Eleanor?
Please.
Or how are you going to allocate your resources this time?
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Maybe we can see Omar helping Eleanor and Brant's like yes, a bit of advice from the, seeing as he seems to be the senior kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, he's just over at a corner being like, that's fucked up.
Cool.
Cool. So first we are doing intuition though, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Intuition it up. And then we can do the peripheral.
And intuition's a plus
1.
I got a 9.
Yeah. Oh, also, while I was thinking of this, what do you guys think about having to like roll for stats since everybody is the same playbook, so it's not the same stats every time? Might be like a little bit more fun.
Like, are you saying to have no mods?
No, like at the beginning when you're creating your playbook person.
Yeah, that could be fun. The other thing I was thinking is don't have any stats in this one, and there'll be more like failure at everything.
Just that's it all. You just have grief.
Yeah.
Rough day.
Just grief and help. That's all you can do.
Oh shit. Things got real. Okay. Okay, did you roll intuition?
I did. I got an 8.
Okay, cool. Wow, you guys are shitty at intuition, but really good at peripheral. It's funny. Cool. So when there's someone feeling. Yeah, I think the thing that you see is above you is where the actual metro line is, right? There's so it goes by and we get the swinging chandelier as above some train goes by quite quickly, careening through the tracks and stuff. And as it moves, it illuminates like the siding of the like the brick and stuff like that, and we see that it's been defaced by youths. And they have painted like exactly the image of the fox that we saw in the previous issue, with like striking detail. And I think it's one of those ones where I don't remember what it's called, but it's like street art where it looks 3D, where you could almost like reach out and touch it, but it's
like isometric kind of.
Yeah, and it's exactly like the fox that it is there. Yeah. So yeah, that's the uncanniness of that, which is I'm choosing far more subtle than normal. And so then you're peripheraling it up with Omar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do this.
I think the secondary name of this particular episode will just be Fraser Bastardizes English words. You are peripheraling.
Candle bras.
I could swear that was a thing, to be honest.
just say that it's the Canadian way of saying it, and we won't know any better.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a thing. So yeah, peripheral.
Awesome. And I'm rolling. Okay, cool. Am I getting help?
Yeah, I
Where's
think
Omar?
Omar said
Omar's obeying your every like unconfident instruction.
Neat. Well, I rolled really badly. I got a 5
Yes.
on the dice.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What's
That is giving what you want.
Well, it was because Omar was involved, right? Not Eleanor's
Yeah.
fault.
So
Okay, so
yeah.
you get a grief, and I choose one for you to answer. And I would like to know, especially seeing as what I've said already about the patient, what is uncanny, surreal, or mysterious? Particularly, especially since you started working on like a shadow person, you know? Like obviously we know that it's not like actually a shadow, but it just was framed that way because of the way that the light fell. So I think there's a lot to play with in
Is
that.
Omar getting repercussions as well for being involved in helping?
Yeah, maybe I'll pose one question to each of you then. That might be fun.
Cool.
Maybe what do you perceive here as a manifestation of either your grief or your guilt right now? And Lauren, you can handle the uncanny, surreal, mysterious aspects. Or you could swap it if you want.
No, it's okay. So this because it's like kind of early, and I've been vaguing in and out a little bit. So this it's kind of like shadowy, candly people we're working on.
Right, they were just like framed in darkness because the light didn't hit them. They're not like actually. Well, you tell me, I guess.
Or are they?
Yeah, yeah. Maybe it is a shadow person, but I was just like invoking the uncanny a little bit there with saying like the darkness fell on their bodies, and I was trying to paint like a ominous picture of like these two shadowed bodies in mirror imaged on this strange train track framed in darkness.
Oh, neat. That awesome. I got an idea. Because I kind of dig like the candlelight looking a bit like bird wings, or like, you know, like blanking on a good adjective for it, like sort of frantic beating of bird wings kind of thing. Which sort of like build a bit because there's an odd breeze that sort of like rustles through that causes the flames to gutter a bit and grow. And for a second, it almost looks like it's not going to stop as the beating and the wing beats like become more fervent. And perhaps like Eleanor even like feels like the brush isn't against her going past and stuff. and it takes her right back to like when she was in that creepy, like dingy, weird vet place that she can't quite name. And I think she stutters like as she's working on this person, sort of like totally thrown back into that flashback that we saw. Yeah, she totally just freezes up on the job.
Cool. And what about Omar?
I've got one tiny bit of cool flavor as well before I do my thing that I was thinking about. I think maybe I just like the idea that as this is happening, another like train goes like past, maybe in the opposite direction up the top, and it's there's like the similar type of graffiti like on it again, but like it's been done along the length of the train, and as the train goes past us, it's like a flip book, you know how flip books work, like of the fox. So the train zooms past and we kind of see this like animated like fox running past like in the background. And then in terms of the what is it, the grief, I'm just trying to remember my actual question. I just got too excited about the flavor. What was my question again?
What do you perceive here as a manifestation of either your grief or guilt?
Oh yeah, okay, cool. I think yeah, as Omar's working on this person in the shadows and it seems to not be going very well. I think yeah, we see the train move past behind him and then he looks over at where that other mural is, and I think it's got this what it actually is, if you've got the background knowledge, is this kind of like comic strip, a little bit like that like Egyptian tomb style like story, you know, like an old comic book style thing, that's, or a scroll, like the Christian scrolls, that like a story scroll. And it's like telling a shortened version of the story that happened in the last episode. So it's got pictures of old people, and then like as Omar's looking at it though, the old people, how he reads it, because he doesn't know that story, is these old people are dying and becoming animals, and then the animals are kind of re-entering kind of life in a new way, which is the story of them kind of becoming part of the nursing home again. But I think he's kind of reading it. I think maybe this time he's seeing it as he's prone to seeing signs everywhere, I think, hence like taking up all these different religions. So I think he reads that as kind of a reinforcing that he's on the right track with his with this particular religion that he's investigating at the moment. So yeah.
Oh,
I totally think at the end of that one of the animals in that mural is like a raven at the end, and we're just sort of like looking at it, the picture of it, and the camera sees, and then in the space that the raven occupies, an actual raven just like flutters and bats its wings and flies away, but there's still that same silhouette that was there right there just before.
Cool.
very good. I like it.
Was that too vague and weird, or did you guys get where I was going with that? I'm not sure about my communication skills right now. Okay, awesome.
I liked it a lot, yeah. So, meanwhile, Brants, you are seeing them work on this person, and then further down, there's another shadowed individual.
Yeah, I'm gonna go and work on them. They've got one person, and I'll try to help the other. We'll see how that goes. Oh, but I actually do really well on it, so
Yeah, well, you're Brants.
yeah, I got a 10, so
Cool.
I choose 2 questions to answer. I think what I fear most in this instance is we kind of got to the scene later than we should have. I think they're going to die on the way back to the hospital. And with how that was happening to Eleanor, like how she was, I think that's going to not leave her in a great place, especially since she was sort of like leading this up. So like I fear how that reaction is going to go when they die on the way back. And it's not her fault. It's just that we didn't get here in time, and that's just how it goes sometimes.
That's how
And
it goes in the creepy tunnels.
yeah. So like as much as we want to do as best as we can, it's just not always what it is. Um, And then I think the thing that is uncanny or surreal or mysterious here is like this is so like as you're saying, like antiquated place with like kind of like old style architecture. I think this is totally one of those places that would have like those fancy like gilded like railings and things in these old subways. And there's definitely um like mini gargoyle type things that they're like animal form type like gargoyles like on a bunch of like pillars and like above doorways and things like that, that it's supposed to like you could tell at one point looked really like they looked good when the place was in good repair, but like that's not what it is now. And like they're just kind of looming over and they look dingy and covered in soot and like stuff like that. And I think the uncanny part is like um you can see one of them maybe like from the ones that came over the doors, like the stairway entrance that we came down. um I think you see like it's probably maybe like two cats sitting over this doorway, like little gargoyle cats, and like they're statues, they're totally stone, but like you can see them blinking and then going back to like just being statues.
Ooh, I like it. Yeah. Yeah, I like the do no harm because even if you do well, we're still ramping up the uncanny, which makes it more likely that people will want to be talking about it anyway. So I think it's fine. Yeah. Cool. You all play into my trap. Cool. And then we'll cut back again, I guess. And so you think that these people don't make it then? Yeah. I think that makes sense too. We could, if we wanted to adjudicate it, we could do a handle yourself roll to see if they did or not. But we could just say that they don't make it as well.
I think it's good in the fiction if they don't. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. And I also like it because you've had like a good start to the day or to the shift, and then it suddenly like this is the turn, right? Cool. So you deposit them back at the I was gonna say the hotel. I was like, oh wow, that's not good. Don't use that word. At the hospital.
There's no room left in the morgue, so they're using a hotel as a temporary morgue.
No. There's room. It's not that dark. Uh, yeah, so you deposit these people back at the hospital, and I'm sure that they probably are still being like worked on. And maybe we get this shot of them going through the like swinging emergency doors or whatever, and it slowly swings to your faces, and we like the audience can just tell that they're not going to make it just from the faces of your characters there. Yeah. And then again, yeah, does anyone have any scenes that they want to do, keys or otherwise?
Yeah, I think I'm going to both probably hit a move and do a key at the same
Ooh,
time type thing.
calm down, system mastery. Cool, hit me.
Yeah, so I think it's like again, I think we walk back out from the hospital and get in the back of the ambulance, and like you can tell from our faces that we're kind of down. Like they died on the way there. There's nothing. And I kind of just like there's a moment of silence as like maybe the ambulance starts and moving, and then I speak up and I turn to both. I'm like this has happened before. Like we've all been on jobs and people don't always make it. And we had some good stuff earlier in the shift, and it worked out well, but we should be thankful for the people that we could save, and sometimes like that, even if we have all the skills, you can't do it. I mean, the whole reason why I'm here, the reason why I'm doing this, is because I was in a situation where I thought if I just had the skills to save someone, I could. But I couldn't. I didn't have those skills then. And I'm not sure, even if I had the skills I have now, if I could do it, if I was in that same situation, whether or not I could do anything. Sometimes it's just not in our hands. But that's not really for us. We do what we can and we move forward. We'll drive around, we'll find somebody else, and hopefully we'll get there in time. I think I just kind of like stop talking. Like I almost, there's a couple of moments where you think I'm going to say something else, and I just stop and don't say anything else and just quiet again.
Nice leadering. And you're opening up, I think, perhaps?
Yeah. I'm going to open up.
Oh, you're muted.
I got a 9 on that, so I'll remove 1 grief.
Cool. That's funny. We just see the son of a... Okay, cool. Anyone else have things? Or what key was that hitting then? You're muted again.
I think I was revealing something personal that you haven't spoken of.
I think so too. Cool. Does anyone else want to participate in the scene or have a flashback or anything like that?
I have something in mind, but did you have something in mind, Lou?
Yeah, but I'm happy to wait and listen to you and plan my thing at the same time.
Awesome. So it I guess I kind of dig like maybe a little bit after that wonderful pep talk we got from Bronze. That it, like maybe he's driving and it's Eleanor and Omar in the back going to their next job, and they're kind of like sort of jostling around in the back of the ambulance as they're taking off again. And I think it's quite quiet until like perhaps like Omar maybe looks up and sees that Eleanor's like trying really hard not to cry. Maybe she is crying, but she's trying to like hide it. And and I think despite the true words that Bronze spoke, there's that voice in the back of her head that's like, you fucked up, like you froze, you are the reason that person died, like you got distracted, it's all your fault. And I think she's just sort of like overcome with that voice as it gets sort of louder and louder in her head and more aggressive.
Yeah, I think I'm would probably look across and notice what was going on, and I think he's probably got his little like he's got his bead bag out in the back of the car. He's kind of chanting quietly to himself. And I think maybe he's like, hey, what are you doing later on? He's like trying to distract you. He's like, how are you going to like let off some steam after this? That was pretty rough.
And I think she's sort of like kind of like quietly ugly crying, like sort of like using the palms of her hands to like sort of quell the tears. And her shoulders are maybe sort of going up and down a bit, and she's like, oh, like yeah, I don't know, I hadn't thought about it, like I don't think I deserve to go out after this man.
I think he laughs because he's like, I'm guessing that's probably the type of black humor that they but like she's trying to open up to him, but he just thinks that she's like being a bit dark and funny, so he just laughs. He's like, yeah, I know that feeling.
No, I'm serious, Omar. Like I killed that person. I fucked up. Like I froze. I don't know what it was about that place, but it was terrifying. And I there was some weird shit going on, and I don't know. Like I fucked up. I fucked up.
I think we can just do our best. I mean, why were they fooling around down in that weird subway anyway? You didn't make the decision for them to be down there. We just turned up when we could and tried to do the best that we could, right?
I don't know if I did. But
Well, you did. You did the best that you could in that exact moment, even if it wasn't like your best. It was just, you can't be operating at your best constantly. We're just humans.
I think it's like enough to placate her at the moment, but you can tell in the back of her head she hasn't quite accepted that she did her best and that everything is fine.
It sounds like you're both opening up, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Was that what you were going for? Yeah, whatever.
I think maybe Omar was I think maybe he did end up opening up a little bit. He was trying to a little bit totally deny that she was like showing emotions at first and totally changed the subject, but I think he was probably forced into revealing his own emotional stance on the situation. So yeah.
Okay, so you could each roll it, or you could be helping one another to open up, which might be what Omar was doing. Were you helping her to open up?
Or vice versa, because Omar totally wasn't ready to like actually like be real, and then he ended up being real.
That's true.
Should I roll it?
Yeah, I guess you'll roll it, yeah. And with advantage. And then whatever happens, you share.
I got a 10 on the dice.
So you take +1 forward and remove 1 grief. Which puts us at... Boom. 2 more slices. 2 more slices to go. Mr. Bond. Okay, cool. Yeah, that was great. I liked all of those scenes greatly. Is everybody good then? Yeah, cool. I think the next place that you get called to, even maybe it's like, I kind of like the idea of it being right at the pinnacle of that moment when you guys are trying to express your grief and all that, and then suddenly there's the interrupt of the thing. You know? Fuck, why is English hard? Yeah,
the radio.
Word. Yeah. I guess English is just not my thing right now. The radio comes over, and that's the thing that breaks the tension. That's probably like quite palpable in the ambulance. Maybe even you guys were like eating or something like that, right? And you have to like stop, go, and you get called to this place that again is like amped up a little bit more in surrealism, where it's not like dilapidated. It's not broken down much. And it's also kind of overgrown. It would be like every children's book when kids come upon like a witch's house or whatever where it hasn't been kept Like the vines have run wild over the house, and it's even gone one step further in this place. It's like covered in green to reinforce our jungle motif. And what else? I think that as you move around, like perhaps you knock at the door and somebody goes around because you can't get in. There's like a weird um there's like steps moving down and then a pool that looks like it would be from Jason and the Argonauts or something, where it's like stones and motifs going on, and again, kind of like a hidden world just behind this person's house. And it sort of like acts as a basement recess thing behind the house and below. And I think there's a body floating there, shimmering above as like since it would be like a basement recess place. I think we get the Blade Runner-y ish thing going on with the water ripples and the light moving all around the space. And
I was
who's
I was gonna say if it's Jason and the Argonauts, I would totally imagine there's a bunch of like statues that are sort of like the Medusa-esque, like people frozen around in the backyard type thing.
Oh yeah, that's really cool too. I like that a lot. Cool. And then so whose gut brought them to, maybe it's one person in particular that brought them to the body floating there, right? Like maybe someone was knocking and then somebody got this gut feeling and then like moved behind to go look.
It can be me. I can do that.
Cool.
So I walk around to the backside, and I think it's totally like I'm a little bit shocked as I see all of these statues, um, and then I'm just kind of like looking at them, and then I follow one because like one is like just pointing at the pool, and I just follow where it's pointing, and but it's a stone statue. Like why would it? But whatever, it's pointing like directly at the body that's just laying there. Like, is it like face down in the water?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And so I go over there and like I think I whistle for everybody just cuz it'll be sort of like that sharp thing to get their attention, and as they come by I'm like think we found them. And then just trying to like maybe like cuz I don't want to like jump in the pool, just looking like for the like the pool cleaners, like the net, just to like nudge the persons closer to where we are so we can like kind of haul them out.
Right. Cool. So roll that intuition.
Yeah, I did, and I got a 9.
Cool. Wow, you guys like the 7 of 9s in this one.
We really
Um,
do.
so I'd like this one to be the thing that like really articulates what the uncanny thing wants. So, ooh, I know. Who didn't we say last time that the director got like fired or something like that? I think it's like the director of the home. Like we turn over the
That
body,
that kind of jerk guy, the older dude with the
Mustang
sports
or
car.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the guy, and in kind of in keeping with this house too, right? Like it's all opulent and ostentatious and douchey. I think at first the audience would be like, "Ooh, it's so interesting and cool," and then we turn over the body and you're like, "Of course, it's that fucking guy, right?"
Is he like strangled or clawed or mauled?
Yeah, I think that would be fitting, right? Like an impossible circumstance, like maybe raked across the chest or something like that, but in the middle of the pool with nothing around ostensibly.
Omar totally sees the tail of the snake that he saw earlier on the TV, just the very tip of the tail, like disappear into something out of the corner of his eye.
Actually, instead of across the chest, it's probably the neck too, in a thing of like we've been silenced and now you are too, that kind of thing, right? Cool. So, are you working on the body then? The peripheral?
I mean, sure, I will, but it's sort of me like checking to make sure he's dead because, like, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure he is.
Yeah, well, the peripheral is just
Yeah,
you're doing the
Yeah.
motions of your job, but you're actually paying attention to the other things. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was just funny to frame it that way.
Yeah, I'll totally be doing that.
Yeah.
Oh, but I crushed that. I get an 11. Nah, plus peripheral, I get a 12. So yeah.
Whatever.
Whatever.
You see everything. Your third eye opens up.
I think the uncanny or surreal or mysterious thing that I see here is as I'm like checking over the body, and this is probably like one of the few scenes where we see more of the body than we have in like the rest of the show. Is that around his neck you can see like signs of all the like different animals have like scarred and things like that. Like you see a little bit of imprint of like where a snake would have been like around his neck choking him, and you see like two different sets of claws and like another bite mark like all around his neck, like all these different things that were trying to get at his neck. And he died from one of them. Which exact one, I don't know, but there was a whole bunch trying to do it. And so I think that's the uncanny, surreal, and mysterious thing there. What would be another good thing here? I think the other thing. All right, so I'm going to combine two of these slightly. And I think we'll step back a little bit from flashback slightly because I think this is actually going to happen before we see all that stuff on the neck, or maybe that's what the camera sees. But like when we flip the body over and Brant looks at the face, maybe it's a little bit hard to tell at first, but then you see like him recognize the face. And you get like a little bit of a flashback of like him looking at the picture like from like his place. Like you can see a younger Brant, and you can see him in like a prom picture type thing with somebody else, and you can see with the parents, and you can see a younger version of this person like with the other person that he's there. So like he was dating the daughter of this person, and like this is their parent that he didn't know about, or like didn't know what happened but lost touch with them a long time ago type thing, and just recognizes them. And so like the combining is this is the guilt and manifestation of your grief, but it's also like if you look at it from somebody else, like it's just like Brant standing there kind of like shocked a little bit, and like going pale as he sits there like flipping over the body and like distinctly trying not to look at the face and just like looking at the wounds.
Yeah, and somehow the eyes are like pointed at you,
Yeah,
like accusingly.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I reckon probably both of like Omar and Eleanor would recognize that you're not like behaving the way that you normally would, like you've kind of faltered a little bit. I think so. Omar would like automatically be like, I think he comes up and puts his hand on he's like, do you know this man? Do you need to step aside, or what do you need?
I mean, no, I can do it. I mean, he's already dead, but I haven't seen him in, I don't know, long time. 15 years maybe since I last saw him. But yeah, I knew him, knew his daughter real well. But
I'm sorry.
and I think with that, like he just sort of like chuckles a little bit because it's like, thanks, but I mean, yeah.
I've never had that happen before. I've never come across someone that that I knew on the job before.
Yeah. It happens every now and then, but this was not exactly a face I was expecting to see ever again.
I think maybe Omar would try you like look over at Eleanor and maybe just like you like try to like walk like walk him like away a little bit and let like Eleanor deal with it. But yeah, I don't know. Do you want to jump in with something, Lauren?
Yeah. I think like Eleanor's sort of been like watching this from the sidelines, and then Omar looks at her and she sort of like jumps a bit to attention. As she sort of comes back from whatever she was thinking about, sort of like looking at poor Brants and the sky, and again like relating to that loss of someone that you knew whilst on the job. And I think as Omar and Brant's kind of like walk away, she sort of puts her hand on Brant's shoulder and says like, oh yeah, I like this. She says like, do you want to be the one to tell like your ex-girlfriend what happened?
Yeah, I'll tell her, but I think she already knows.
Oh, why?
Reason why I haven't seen him in 15 years is because it's been about 15 years since her funeral.
Are you
Oh my
opening
God.
up?
Yeah, I think this is opening up. Like,
That was good. I like Laura's reaction.
oh yeah, I got an 11, so
Nice.
I'll move my grief down to 0. And I'm like, yeah, it's been 15 years since her funeral. She died in a car crash, and I mean, about a year after that, that's when I became a medic. Wanted to stop things. So maybe she'll get to see her dad again.
Oh my gosh, do you need a hug?
I think I don't say yes, but I just sort of like nod and like give you a hug.
She totally like gives him a hug. Like it's like a nice like tight one.
Mhm.
And then she's like, "Don't worry, I got this. Like you guys go back to the ambulance. I got this. Don't worry."
Thanks. Cool. Yeah. I think he just nods and says thanks and walks to the ambulance.
Mm-hmm. And then so we just need one more tick. Does that do? I don't think we need another scene. Maybe back at the hospital, people are talking or something like that. I find it interesting that like everyone's seeing all this weird shit, but they're opening up about their past and stuff, but not talking about the weird shit. I think that's interesting. Like, it could be the type of episode where it's really communicating like all this crazy shit happens in the medic's life, and they never understand the craziness of it, but then the audience is aware of why it's happening because of the animals and stuff. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's just reminding me of sorry, you go, Yoshi.
I was gonna say it's just part and parcel of their work. They think it's perfectly normal that all of this stuff is happening, but everybody else is like, why didn't you talk about those animals? Like, that's super important. How did you leave that out of the story?
I also kind of like that it's like that like the peripheral thing, it's like part of them is acknowledging that it's happening, and it reminds me of Terry Pratchett a bit, where people like humans don't see the things going on around them because it doesn't, like, you know, they might see the Grim Reaper walk right past them and they kind of see it, and then straight away like it didn't happen, sort of thing. They're like operating on multiple levels.
Yeah, totally.
I wouldn't mind seeing like maybe as like as the TV show thing, like maybe as they're driving, yeah, like I think, or maybe, yeah, it's like an hour later or something, they drive past you know, one of those shops that you always see that I've never seen in real life, but with all the TVs in the front window, and there's like a couple of people standing there like watching the TVs, and I reckon you get like that little news report about the like the head of that like weird, you know, that nursing home where the weird thing happened was found in mysterious circumstances in the like out the back of his building or something like that.
So is the thing, yeah, how do you want to complete the pie? Does someone have a neat idea? Because I was thinking it might be neat if somebody, especially with that scene with the TVs, if like one of you were there and somebody's like, "Whoa, that's crazy," and then you say like, "I was there" or whatever, and articulate that to them, and that's the finale or whatever. Who wants to be that person? And what do you say if so? Because to do it, you do it.
Sounds like an Eleanor thing.
Nice. I love it. I love saying to do it too, because it's like so it's superfluous, you know, like it's just a thing that people would say. It's weird.
So where is this scene taking place exactly?
Maybe you guys are getting food or coffee or something, right? And then there's like all this stuff on the TVs.
Stuff like about like animal stuff on. Yeah, I'm totally getting Chihuahua.
Yeah, like maybe the program is about the home or something like that. Was that what you were thinking, Lou?
Yeah, I was just thinking they were kind of updating people, you know, like, hey, remember that weird story from like 6 months ago with all the animals found underneath the nursing home, and they were like integrated into the home as care animals, and you know, they sacked the director and stuff. Well, you know, look, now he's dead with those weird marks all over his neck.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and what were you saying? Like there's somebody there, and they're like, whoa, like that's weird.
Yeah. There's a lot of birds in the city.
Sorry, they're really waking up now. They want to join in.
Yeah, I guess like these people are watching this news update, right? So
yeah, and it's gonna be one of those like I don't know how to describe it, like one of those newscaster voices where it's like, today on the news, like at 6 p.m., director so and so was found dead at his home under very mysterious circumstances. He was found with multiple like animal wounds, laying in his pond at blah 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 place. And then you see like
laying in his pond. So awesome. He's like, I was just chilling in his pond. It was a dick. Who are we kidding? Who has a fucking pond, right? But the thing that would complete the clock is you opening up. So I was thinking you talking to somebody about that or something, or what you experienced this night? Like maybe the sun is just coming up, right? And you're getting the coffee or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking to the coffee guy, the shawarma guy, or whatever. As like the TV's on, and
I also would totally like to see some sort of like Eleanor doing a stand-up, a heaps black humor stand-up comedy routine, like a like maybe in the epilogue.
Totally in the epilogue, yeah. And then, yeah, I know. I guess like she looks at the shawarma guy and it's like, well, we were there for that. I don't know. Sorry, I'm out of ideas.
Sure. Well, it's in order to get it, you'd have to
yeah, like open it properly.
Yeah, process and articulate what you've experienced, not just say I was there.
Oh my god.
So basically you're wrapping up saying like I was there, yeah, but also like what you experienced, and the main thing with open up is what you think it means, right?
Okay. Oh my gosh.
And everyone put the buck on you.
Oh man. Oh geez.
You can handball it off if you're super stuck, and someone else can be there with you, and like you're like, yeah, we were there.
What I was thinking, a cool thing that you could drop for like an audience perspective and also trigger the move is maybe you knew one of the people at the nursing home as well, right? So it's like in a connection that you had that you didn't know you had, but it ties into the meta layer for the audience who's like, this is happening because people got turned into animals.
Oh yeah, well you did you meet the stage magician? Like have you met them in?
Yeah, totally. I was
maybe they told you about the
turning into animals and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
And you were just like, that's crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe that is triggered by a cut to like the home, and the animal basement was uncovered, right? Like that was the thing that yeah,
totally.
Yeah, so maybe there is a shot of the home and that place and all the cages and stuff, and maybe that's like the thing that clicks some of it together for Eleanor. And as she grabs her coffee, she looks to her colleagues and says, like, this is going to sound like real weird, but I've been at that nursing home and I've seen those cages. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I just kind of feel like there's a lot of silenced pain going on in this place. And while we try and do our best and save the lives we can, I feel like we haven't quite gotten to the bottom of this. And, you know, I've been thinking a little bit the past day about whether or not I'm fit for this job. It's really hard, really, really hard. But I think I'd like to keep going on this journey with you guys in particular. So we might be able to get to the root of what's going on and find like the city's voice and be able to speak out on behalf of it, because some strange shit going on, man.
Oh, man, scene. Credits roll. And then the next scene is you like drunk as fuck singing.
Yeah, totally.
After like all the credits and stuff.
And Omar will totally be there as well, because when I was a Hare Krishna, even though I wasn't meant to drink and stuff, every now and again, we'd just, because we were young dudes, we'd just go out and get super drunk, and like we'd like come back in the morning and everyone would be like super angry at us for being bad Hare Krishnas. So he's totally doing that.
And And we're totally belting out like Regina Spektor's like "The Cage is Full," whatever like the intro song to Orange Is the New Black is.
Well, Regina Spektor's some challenging karaoke. That would sound so bad with drunk people trying to sing it.
Cool. Okay, so yeah, so what do we see for the scenes for everybody? I guess other than Eleanor is karaoke to balance out the other scene.
I'd like to see. Sorry, I interrupted you, Fraser.
Nope, no, it wasn't.
Oh, cool. I was just going to say, I think we see Omar back in his house, and he's got like all of this religious paraphernalia of like multiple faiths around his house. You know, there's like big posters of like Krishna, and there's like, you know, those kind of Roman Catholic like Jesus like portraits, the really ornate ones. I actually probably is one of those super cool tacky ones with the lights behind it, like a plastic Jesus. And like he's got some Buddhas and there's some Taoist stuff. He's just kind of got it all in there. And I think maybe he's I think maybe he's waking up hungover on his couch after the like night of karaoke. And I think maybe you see him, he puts the beads like he puts his beads up on the shelf, and he's like he's on the internet like looking up some other like esoteric obscure faith to try out for a while to see if that works for him. And yeah, I think it just ends there for him.
Yeah, for Brance, I think you see him on a bus carrying like a bouquet of flowers, and like he steps off the bus and the camera just sort of like follows him as he's like walking down the sidewalk, and eventually like turns into a graveyard and just like wanders through the graveyard for a little while, and then eventually stops at a grave, kind of like kneels down and places the flowers on the grave and like whispers something that you probably can't hear, and then just kind of just stands up, and instead of like walking out towards where he came, like back towards the entrance of the graveyard, just sort of like continues to wander through the graveyard for a little while.
Nice. And Lauren, did you have anything to add to? I noticed that I like basically assumed your scene for you. So
It's fair. Yeah, no, I totally dig like her doing her stand-up comedy gig routine, whatever it is. But then like as she finishes the bit and like you get I feel like it's the audience is like 5 people. Like it's at some bar, like in the back room kind of thing, and people mostly turn up because the drinks are cheap. But as she looks up, she totally sees like the fox like silhouetted by the sort of like backstage lighting and stuff. She's like, "What the heck?"
So the real question is, what does the fox say? And then it's
Exactly.
over.
Yeah.
Ding 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 diddling ding ding.
Perfect ending.
Yeah, not as serious as I thought it was going to be. But yeah, cool. Okay, so do you guys have a couple minutes just to do the usual thing, decompress thing?
Totally.
Cool. So what worked and what didn't work, you think? I think this one's the most loosey-goosey I've given you. So there probably will require some tweaks to get the right.
I reckon like from compared to like how it like reads, I reckon it made me without like I said at the start, without knowing the source material, it made me like a bit anxious to like play just because it seemed like super heavy. So I guess maybe referencing that, like I guess like you do, it does have it in there, like, but I think maybe that the point of it isn't medical procedures and like all of the body stuff. It's like, even I guess say that it's about the, like, it does say it in there, but it didn't strike me as strongly, perhaps because I don't know the material, that they're doing the stuff automatically and they're noticing strange things going on around them, I guess, and then responding as humans after the fact to the, like, what went on for them, sort of thing. Like,
Right.
yeah, that's my first thought anyway.
Sure.
I also really liked playing it. Sorry, that's it. Go, Yoshi.
That's fine. I was gonna say, I think the observation you noticed that the do no harm was asking a lot of questions that kind of escalated the uncanny. I think that was spot on. I think what I said before in chat, that doesn't get recorded, so I'll say it again, is that sort of like, because the intuition, like the hit the streets move, fictionally doesn't really feel like something that you would get help on. We never really helped on it, but the do no harm one does fictionally feel like something you would get a lot of help with. So we always helped with that one. So whether or not, um, it felt like for the most part, every time we were doing do no harm. If there was somebody who had an action to do, they would help somebody else with it. Which was part of the reason why it felt like we were always getting 10 pluses on that, for the most part.
Yeah. Do you think that help would be good to remove, maybe? And then just have those people roll double moves anyway and then contribute to the fiction with the move, whatever they get anyway? Or
That could work. That could work out just fine.
Mhm.
Like, you might not need help in this episode, in this issue, for that, and just let people do what it is. That could totally work.
Yeah, you could have help in there, but change it to, like, how do you help in, like, how do you, like, helps here, but you're just helping, like, in the fiction or something. That's not a mechanical
benefit.
component or something. Yeah.
The other thing that maybe you might want to look at the wording of it. It felt like for the do no harm questions, a lot of them were describing a little bit, at least implying or describing the location, the scene, like what we see here, and that felt a little awkward when we were sort of deliberately not doing the medical stuff.
Right.
Like, if that makes sense. Whereas if the things we were answering were more phrased in like interpretive things of like, how does this make you feel? How does what you see do certain things? How do you react to those things, rather than descriptions of the scenes? That might work a little bit better, or it might get the answers that I think you want, or maybe you want. But I felt like, at least for part of it, there was a lot of hesitation of trying to describe actually what was happening when we were answering those questions.
Right, because we're ignoring the patient part of it.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was two other minor things that I was looking at for the saving grace move. It says ask a question, from the do no harm list.
Mm-hmm.
Are we actually asking a question, or are we answering a question? And
Oh,
if we
yeah,
are
answering
asking,
yeah, right.
Yeah, ask yourself a question.
Yeah,
then answer it.
pose yourself the question. Yeah. Yeah.
And the second thing, again, because the saving grace was the move that I picked up after doing the key, so I was looking at that one more closely.
Right.
It says remove one grief. Does that also trigger the other moving the echo forward, where you remove one grief, or is that remove one grief from the opening up only in opening up?
Oh, yeah. So just clarifying it. I think for me, it was just like decreasing your stat and not moving forward, because the thing the echo one is for you to actually verbalize and perpetuate it through spoken word.
That's fair, and I think it does an okay job of that, but like, it wasn't clear to me
Yeah.
what it was.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'll rewrite the saving grace so it makes more sense. Cool. Lauren?
No, I think it's appropriate that my colleagues have articulated my voice. And yeah. I think you guys hit on everything I kind of noticed in the game, but I really loved the theme and the tone of this one. Ooh, I'm getting pinged. Sorry. Yeah, no, I love the theme and the tone. I love that we're sort of service people who are motivated to help and like uncover things. I think that fictionally the characters are definitely positioned to like do what you want the game. Sorry, that's really bad English spell. Do what you want the game to do. Yeah, and I love that there's like the one playbook that we all get to sort of have as a base, and yeah, I think it might be a neat idea to have sort of the stats randomized at the start or roll stats at the start, and then perhaps like build your character from there. It's like if I roll real crappily, I'd be like, oh cool, like I totally am the rookie, and I am really bad at my job, and that's fine because failing is sort of how you drive the fiction forward in this one.
Yeah, because of the one playbook, yeah, it might be good to try to make them unique some way at least.
Yeah, but I love tailoring the advices and stuff and everything to the specific playbook, and I love the stuff you guys came up with in character generation with like religion and alcohol abuse and stuff. They felt very like real people. I apologize for all of my brain farts as well.
No worries. Thanks for waking up to play this too, you guys. That is very kind of you. Especially
I really look forward to it.
Yeah, awesome, man. Me too. Normally we'd have it probably the week before at least, but we had breakout and everything, right? So
poor Ellen's missed 2 in a row now.
I know. I feel bad. We'll definitely schedule it so that everyone can make it next time, I'm sure.
I also I like Fraser, that I've played enough games with you that you're starting to gently tease me now. I feel like we've leveled up as friends.
Yeah.
That's just the right level of teasing for me, so it's nice.
Yeah, we're at the yes, Fraser's making fun of me stage.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think this group is gelled quite well, which is a nice thing. Like, the strength of the Gauntlet games is playing with so many people, but the strength of games like this each month, even though we're playing less often than typical Gauntlet games with the same crew, we've got like this vibe going on, right? We can generally tell what each other are going for and want in the fiction and stuff.
And the knowledge of the like shared story and shared world and stuff, I think, is pretty cool for that too.
Yeah, I really like that. Like I keep trying to get the schedule for just you folks so that we do have that. Like, it's very interesting to me that by the end of Uncanny Echo, we'll really have like a proof of concept that people can listen to and be like, oh, okay, that's how they tied all their things together, and I could do that too. Or vice versa, people can just do it as like a choose your own adventure thing, right? And weave whatever kind of interesting thing that they want into it. It's really neat. But I think I agree. I think it does what I want, which is basically your job is to bear witness, right? And to perpetuate it by actually speaking about it. Because when people experience these things and don't talk about it, then they just literally mop up grief. And in this game, it just goes up. So cool. You guys rolled so well that we didn't really see anybody's vices, but yeah, I think that there's space within this framework for people to take it quite dark or like us and make it like kind of poignant, but also like funny at times with some black humor going on and stuff like that. Cool.
Yeah, and I think black humor is a heaps like from my like talking to my friends that are like nurses and stuff, like they totally like black humor's totally a part of how they deal with that.
Yeah.
Like, as well. Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna stop the recording, and looks like we did exactly 3 hours this time. Nice. We are on point. And we're